The DJI Mini 3 is an epic upgrade and will be announced next week. I've got the full leak specs, countless images, and the announcement details coming up. But first, I encourage you to subscribe and choose all notifications so you're kept informed on the latest camera gear, news and rumors like the DJI Mini 3. Wow, absolutely wow. The DJI Mini 3 is an epic upgrade over the DJI Mini 2, as well as the original DJI Mavic Pro. I've got full leak specifications to prove the point. I've also got a lot of leaked images, but first, the announcement. It's going to take place on May the 10th at 2100 hours local time, or about 8 or 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the leak specifications. And wow, they are absolutely wow. One of the biggest specs of the DJI Mini 3 is its weight, 249 grams. That's significant because in many jurisdictions, if a drone weighs 250 grams or more, such as Canada and the United States, you can't fly it without getting licensed. And I've gone through the process of getting it licensed in Canada and the United States, and it is a little bit time consuming and costs some money. So there's definite savings in terms of time and money. In terms of maximum speed, 16 meters per second in S mode, or about 31 knots. Maximum height, 4 kilometers or 4,000 meters. And maximum flight time is 34 minutes using the standard battery. But if you do want to go 47 minutes, you need the extended battery, and that's going to put you over the 250 gram limit. Now, maximum flight distance is 18 kilometers, which is huge, but that does depend on what obstacles you do have in your way. And maximum wind resistance is between 29 and 38 kilometers an hour, or about 25 miles an hour. It does have Wi-Fi, of course. It also has Bluetooth 5.2, and the operating temperature is between 0 and 40 degrees Celsius. And while you can fly it below 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, I do recommend keeping it warm at room temperature, same with the battery, before flying it, because not doing so, well, let's just say material sciences behave differently once you drop below that freezing point. Taking a look at the camera, we can see that the sensor has a 1 1/3 CMOS sensor. The effective pixels is 48 megapixels, and it's an equivalent to a 24 millimeter lens. The aperture is f1.7, and the focus range is from 1 meter to infinity. But taking a look at the video specs here, we can see that the DJI Mini 3 greatly exceeds those of the DJI Mini 2, as well as the original DJI Mavic Pro. 4K video is capable of 24, 25, and 30 frames per second, all the basic frame rates, as well as 50 and 60 frames per second, and it's capable of HDR up to 4K 60. It can also shoot 2.7K, again in all the basic frame rates of 24, 25, and 30, as well as 50 and 60 frames per second. And in full HD, or 1920 by 1080, it can shoot up to 120 frames per second, and it can also shoot time-lapse. I know what you're thinking. Wow, all these specifications, 4K 60, 4K 60 HDR, 120 frames per second in 1080. This is looking pretty impressive. This is looking like a truly amazing drone, the DJI Mini 3, and at a price of around $500 or $600, it's a great deal, right? Not exactly. Unlike the DJI Mini 2, the price range for the DJI Mini 3 is expected to be around $1,000 or $1,100 US. That's significantly more than the DJI Mini 2. And I'm a little bit sad. I wish it wasn't so much. When I bought the original DJI Mavic Pro, it was around $1,000. I think it was $999. And with a Fly More bundle, I think it came into around $12.99. And I loved it. I got 3 batteries, I got decals, I got a whole bunch of other things, extra blades. I had basically everything I need to last me years. And it has lasted me years. But I'm eager to upgrade because when I shoot, if I'm going across a lake or a snowfield, anything where there's a pretty consistent, how shall I say, dynamic range or color intensity, or you're just looking at a flat color, words are kind of alluding to me now, but whenever you're looking at snowpack or something where there isn't a lot of variation in color and texture, what you start to see is right at the bottom third of the screen, you see some sort of the effects. It doesn't look natural, and that's the one thing that started to age with me. I don't really care for it too much. So I'm really curious to see how the DJI Mini 3 will improve in that regard. Am I going to get one? I'm not so sure. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention too is this one also has an upgraded obstacle avoidance system like the DJI Mavic Pro, and that's a big deal. I don't know, this is really exciting. Let me just take a look. Have I left anything out? Covered off that, time-lapse, yep, covered that. 48 megapixel RAW still, so covered that as well. Bluetooth temperature range, positioning, yeah, we covered that. Looks like I didn't leave anything out. Sometimes I do. I'm really excited by this. I'm not going to pre-order. I want to wait to see what the reviews are like when it first comes out, because sometimes I get a little bit excited over something. Looking at the specifications, I mean, 4K 60, that's incredible. If I was out shooting right now, I would default to 4K 60 the entire time. That would give me buttery smooth footage. And what I'm really hoping is that it's smooth throughout, not just the middle third of the screen, but that bottom third where I'm shooting in snowpacks or I'm shooting across the ice or the lake. I don't see this sort of dithering or strange effects, artifacts in the bottom third. When I'm shooting trees, though, if I'm shooting above the forest, the colors in the fall, it produces really amazing results, and I don't really notice that too much. And other people watching my videos don't see it at all. But this camera, no longer having to worry about licensing, and that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be aware of flying a drone and understanding if there are airports close by. I think it's a responsible thing to do if you're going to fly a drone. There's apps out there. Find out if there are airports close by. If you're flying near water, are there seaplanes or lake planes that come into the area? You got to watch out for these things, because the last thing I would want to do is be responsible for any sort of catastrophe. But still, not having to pay for licensing is a big deal. And of course, the time that you spend going to study for that, I think that's really a big deal as well. Once we had to go for licensing, it kind of changed everything. And I'm really happy to see these drones being less than 250 grams. But here's a big if. If people continue to act recklessly, flying around planes, flying around people or other areas where they shouldn't be flying, then we can probably see restrictions start to come on drones less than 250 grams as well. So hopefully those people that ruined us when we bought the Mavic Pro and now have to get licensed won't ruin it for us buying these DJI Mini 3. But what do you think? Are you excited by the DJI Mini 3 enough to purchase it, to pre-order it? On May the 10th, when we get the official announcement, I'm going to be covering it. I'm going to be putting out a video. I'm really curious to see how well all these leaked specifications that we've gotten really match up with what we get. But I think they're dead on. We've gotten so many leaked photos, so many leaked stills of people holding the drone, of different retail stores leaking information, that I think it's a foregone conclusion that we're going to get these specs. The only thing that I think is a question is, what is the price going to be in US dollars? In Europe, I think it's going to be 849 pounds or 849 euros. So we have an idea that it's going to be around $1,000 to $1,100. And depending on what package you get, how it might be further stratified, who knows, maybe there might be a cheaper option and there might be some more expensive options too. But wow, 4K 60 HDR, 120 frames per second in 1080, and all those capabilities we grew to love with the DJI Mavic Pro, such as the obstacle avoidance, the different ways you can track a subject, whether you're doing pans, whether you're doing rotations around that subject, or whether that subject is in motion, such as a car. It does an amazing job. And while it's pretty effortless, you still do have to watch out, because it's still possible to crash these things. And if this becomes your first drone, I caution you, the first time you fly it, take it out to a grassy field where nobody's around, where there are very few trees, and practice. And I can guarantee you, you're going to crash it once. And if you do it in that setting, you're going to be okay. Don't go too fast. And here's one of the biggest things that you learn the first time out, one of the lessons learned. You're flying it, everything's going great. You're flying it out where it's moving away from you. And then when you turn it around to bring it back to you, well, left isn't left anymore. Left is right, right is left. And things start to get a little bit, well, difficult, because whenever you have to reverse your controls and think, to move it left, I have to move it right, and vice versa, then things start to be a little bit more confusing. And because you got both sticks and all that, things can start to get a little bit confusing. But I'm really excited by this drone. I'm really excited by the display that it comes with. I get tired of having to take my phone out of the protective case and stick it into the controller that comes with the DJI Mavic Pro, the Fly More bundle, and to have its own built-in display, well, it does add to the cost. I think it just provides to a much better user experience. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. But that's it for now. One last thing though, don't forget to subscribe and choose all notifications. And by choosing all notifications, as soon as I publish a new video on the DJI Mini 3 or anything else related to cameras, you'll be the first to know. But I'm going to go ahead and sign off now, because I'm starting to slur my speech. It's almost midnight here, and I just wanted to get this out to you before I went off to bed, because, well, it's my son's birthday tomorrow, and you know what? I didn't want to be thinking of cameras and putting videos out on Saturday. I want to get this out for you now. And of course, if you're watching this now, I wouldn't be surprised if it is already Saturday, especially in Australia or Australasia, Japan, China. A lot of you guys are waking up to have your breakfast, your coffee, and I guess by the time I get this published, you might even be having your lunch. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.